Dad, we use the term worldview a lot in this series. What is a worldview?
You know, the interesting thing is, one day I was going to speak on the subject in Hong Kong, and as I stood up to speak, one of the lenses of my glasses fell off. I was to read a text, and there I was looking at a pair of glasses with one lens that worked, and there was no lens on the other side, and everything was distorted, which was ironic because I was going to talk about a worldview, in a sense, is the lens through which you ultimately look at reality. And as we've dealt with the four issues of origin, meaning, morality, and destiny, those are the particular questions that have to be answered. And when they are put together, they form your worldview. So a worldview is a set of assumptions or assertions you have made through which you look at every choice and every decision that ultimately comes in life to shape, especially your values and your spiritual commitments that are made in your day-to-day living. It is a critical thing, and the problem is some people don't realize that they have a worldview. C.S. Lewis said about apologetics, the question is not whether you do apologetics or not, the only question is whether you have what you already do in apologetics is good or not. And that's also the case of a worldview. It's not whether you have a worldview or not, it's a case of whether the one you do have is a truthful worldview or a false one.
Something that important has to be tested. So how do we do that?
It absolutely has to be tested. And there are two or three things I can say here. The classical way of testing a worldview involves three steps: logical consistency, empirical adequacy, and experiential relevance. What does that mean? Your answers have to be logically consistent. They have to be empirically adequate, meaning you're able to verify them in situations like the resurrection from the dead, like the archaeological claims of the Bible, like the historicity of the Bible. So that is the empirical component in it. And then experiential relevance, that all of this is also relevant to your life, not just some kind of an abstract argument that you give to things. Now, there are two ultimate tests: correspondence and coherence. To particular questions, your answers must correspond to reality. Meaning by that, if you say, I came here in a red car and it's parked right in front of the building, that is a correspondence test I will put. I can walk out of here and see if that red car is actually there, or you're spinning some kind of a line to me on that. Now, if you're in a courtroom and you say, I didn't commit that murder, maybe you're telling the truth, but that does not mean you have no implications in it. How will the attorney find out whether you are completely telling the truth or not? They will take all of your answers, put them together, and make sure they are coherent. So there's correspondence and coherence. Let me say something very important that is easily forgotten. Sometimes worldviews are systemically false. The system itself is flawed, and you don't have to examine all of the details to know the worldview is flawed. You can see that something central to it is a flaw. For example, the Quran says Jesus never really died on the cross. It only appeared to the people that he died. Jewish historians, pagan historians, Greek historians, Roman historians, Christian historians all say that he died on the cross. So when a particular book can make an assertion like that, that is false, you immediately know there's something in that book and that worldview that could be systemically flawed, because it denies the very death of Jesus Christ, which is intrinsic to the Christian faith. So going back, logical consistency, empirical adequacy, experiential relevance, correspondence to truth in particular statements, coherence as a whole worldview. And if you notice a systemic flaw, there are danger signs of the rest of the worldview. That's what I like about the Christian faith. It corresponds to reality, it coheres as a worldview, it's logically consistent, I can test it out, and it brings relevance to your life in all of the most vital pursuits that you and I engage in. That's what makes Christianity not just an end-time thing, it makes it relevant for the now.